Jason Whitlock, welcome to the program. How are you, sir?
How are you, Glenn?
I'm great. I'm not following the Diddy thing. I mean, what I have read this week is absolutely disgusting. I mean, I've read disgusting, and you kind of read it kind of like you watch a car wreck. I can't even read this stuff. It is so grotesque. What is actually being exposed here? What do you think actually happened, and why aren't they going after anybody but Diddy?
I got my tinfoil hat on as I'm talking to you, Glenn. Okay. So I want the audience to be aware.
Crap! Now I can't read his mind.
So listen, I think they're holding a trial about, hey, Diddy's a really bad person. He's a sexual degenerate. He turns violent against women that he's dating. But in terms of racketeering or sex trafficking and all that, none of that is being addressed. And I think there's probably a good chance that Diddy either walks or the jury just convicts him, hey, you're a bad person. But in terms of the actual sex trafficking, and he's this ringleader of this sexual exploitation deal, they're not proving that case, and I'm not sure if they have an interest in even arguing that case. At this point, Glenn, 4 or 5 days into the trial, I think they raided Diddy's home to strip him of his power and leverage and blackmail material, and that all this is really about is taking away Diddy's leverage and handing it over to the Department of Justice or whoever is responsible for this, or stripping him of the most damaging information he had on key people that they don't want harmed. But in terms of a serious criminal prosecution of Sean Combs, that's not what's transpiring here.
Well, that was a mouthful. I need my tinfoil hat for that one. What the hell? So wait a minute. You're saying that maybe he was an operative, or if he wasn't an operative, he was collecting stuff on people, and now the government wants that to either protect those people or to have the power over those people?
And to strip Diddy of his power. To me, at this point, 4 or 5 days in, and based on what they're arguing, yesterday, they basically argued that his girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, and I'm talking about the prosecution, argued that she was the one that paid these sex workers. I mean, this trial is a farce. It is proving that Diddy is a sexual degenerate. Diddy is violent towards women he's dating. But in terms of, this major sex trafficker and all that, no, they're not even attempting to argue that. And so I think that Diddy, being a bit of an idiot, probably got too full of himself and started threatening the wrong people with the information he had. And someone needed to put him in his place. Like, no, you're an operative, you're a tool, you're an asset. You're not some ringleader. You haven't ascended to a place of power where you can actually use this information to start blackmailing people. And so they've stripped him of his information. They've totally destroyed his reputation. And, again, maybe this jury will be so repulsed by Diddy, which they could be, that they'll just convict him of something that hasn't been proven in court.
A lot of people don't know that I'm a painter, and I gave up painting because of demoralizing pain in my hands. I was losing hope. If pain keeps you from really living, I urge you to do what I did. Try Relief Factor. Relief Factor is a 100% drug-free supplement developed by doctors. It's safe to take every day, and it has helped me and so many others. You can try their 3-week quick start right now, $19.95 at relieffactor.com.
So, who are the mysterious they?
The people that attended Diddy parties, who Diddy may have threatened. And look, I hate to use this name because I'm just spitballing here.
Yeah, you're just speculating.
Let's take a LeBron James, who has said he went to Diddy parties. And clearly LeBron James is an important asset in the Democratic Party and trying to push black people to stay on the Democrat plantation. And so if LeBron James is on tape somewhere and he's admitted that he went to Diddy parties, ain't no party like a Diddy party. If I'm the globalist, the leftist, and LeBron is an important asset for me, I want that information stripped from Diddy. I want control of that information. LeBron James is our asset, not Diddy's asset. And so I'm using LeBron James, but there may be other people like that. Because I'm just telling you, if you watch the case or what's transpiring in the court, you can't watch it, but follow it. They're just basically arguing, hey, man, this guy is a pervert, and him and his girlfriend did some really perverted things. They're not proving a serious criminal case, and so now I have to go, well, what was the motive? What was the big raid? They raided this guy like he was Pablo Escobar.
I know.
And now they're in court arguing that he's Hugh Hefner? No, that's not what we were promised. That's not what, you don't do a raid like that. Just, this guy's Hugh Hefner. He's hosting sex parties at his house. They raided him like it was Escobar. And right now, 4 or 5 days in, maybe Diddy's Bill Cosby, but that's it.
I have to tell you, I think I'm more disgusted by your answer, if it's true, if it's right, than I am by Diddy and what he was doing, what I've heard in testimony, which is disgusting and despicable. But I think I'm more disturbed by the answer of this, I owned these people, you don't own these people. My gosh, you want to talk about a plantation.
It's the only thing that makes sense to me at this point. Diddy is, again, he's some talentless rapper, from a very questionable background, and should never, again, when you build a system as corrupt as the globalists have, very corrupt people rise to power.
Yes.
And people that shouldn't have power end up with power. And Diddy is potentially one of those people. And it's like they've created Frankenstein. Well, how do you kill Frankenstein? This is how you do it.
Wow. When is this trial? When's this trial supposed to end? How much longer?
I think it's supposed to be like 6 weeks of. And again, there's part of me that thinks like this is a distraction. This is sensational and just intended to, hey, go look over here, Diddy and baby oil, and look at all these sensational sex stories. But there's no real meat here. There's no substance here. And, is rap music in that industry nihilistic and perverted and sexually degenerate? Mm-hmm. Yes, we knew all that. We don't need a trial to prove that.
And you can't go to jail for that.
No. Well, you can.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can if it gets so perverted and your slavery.
No. What I mean by that is we've seen juries so repulsed by the defendant that it just doesn't matter what the government's arguing or whatever. And that he may go to jail just for being a horrible, awful person, and no one's going to feel sorry for him if that's the case. But in terms of some sex trafficker, again, I just don't see it at this point.
So this goes to what, because my question has been, why are you not going after anyone else but Diddy? Because he couldn't have done all of this by himself. So why is he the guy? And it's the same story as Epstein. They're only talking about him and, Maxwell. That's it. Nobody else. Haven't heard even a name of anybody else.
Let me differentiate from my perspective the difference between Epstein and Diddy, and based on what's been argued in court, we're not even seeing them suggest that Diddy was doing this with underage people so far. And, the Epstein part is about underage and it's child sex trafficking and all that. We haven't even gotten there with Diddy. We've spent the first 4 or 5 days talking about the sexcapades of him and his girlfriend, and they
Which is the
tried to
least
paint
important.
her as a victim, but she looked like a willing participant so far in court.
But this is what this is why this is disturbing me, because if what was said about these parties, it does lead
Involve
to
children.
It
Yeah,
involves
underage
children.
people,
It
yeah.
involves drugs that people pass out, and then there's rape and everything else. And on top of that, probably poor language is the idea that they're both Diddy and Epstein are both operatives for some political or governmental entity or group of people that are trying to control people and keep them in play.
Yeah, and James Comey's daughter, who's on the prosecution team, she's not going to argue that because they're not going to go in, or maybe later in the trial, because Diddy certainly was someone that was out there promoting the Democratic Party, vote or die. He was certainly a political operative for the Democratic Party. So far, and even in opening statements or whatever, based off my understanding, none of that's being argued. That his political involvement, his political engagement, none of that's being put on the table. They're keeping this in a very safe space of, hey, look at how sexually perverted Diddy and his girlfriend were.
I hate this. I absolutely hate this. Because if we don't clean this kind of stuff up, we have no chance of survival. It's like the stuff that was happening with the Muslim pedophile rings over in England, where everybody knew what was going on. And I'm not saying we know over here what's going on, but over there, it just became so obvious, and the government was just covering it up for it because it served their purposes, whatever those purposes might have been. And you can't have a civilization, you can't have a society that is cohesive at all if these kinds of things are just not taken care of. If they're just if special favors are paid to both sides and just make it go away, you don't have a real system of government.
I'm gonna go a step further, Glenn, or just from my perspective, you can't have a society that allows the form of music that Diddy was involved in, that promotes sexual degeneracy and violence and drug use. If that is going to be at the center of American music culture, if that's going to be promoted and Super Bowl halftime shows, and Diddy is going to be a powerful figure in politics and in culture, you can't have a society that properly functions.
Jason Whitlock is with us. So what is your solution to that?
We have to reapply obscenity laws and quit allowing porn and this type of degeneracy to be protected under allegedly free speech. And, there was a long time in America where, we had obscenity laws and there were things you couldn't do and say on public airwaves and in movies and things like that. And now all of a sudden everything is under free speech. And I just don't,
the key there was not in movies, but you just said it, public airwaves. I mean, I remember 1982, I'm working on the morning show at WPGC in Washington, D.C. I'm 18 years old. The guy across the street is Howard Stern. He is just making his big impact in Washington, D.C. And I said on the air one time, I'm 18 years old, and I said, it really pisses me off. I wish I would have saved this letter because I'd have it framed today. It was a full-page memo from the program director saying, I don't know who you think you are, and I don't think you know where you work, but this is the nation's capital, and we do not use language like, quotation mark, pissed on the air. That's how far we've come. Because now that's nothing. That's nothing. I don't know how you reverse that. If you believe in freedom, it really should be reversed internally by the people. And I don't know how to make that happen other than you got to find God, people.
There was a time when we had this, and in the name of freedom, we've now allowed all types of degeneracy and obscenity to go mainstream.
Right. And it was in the name of freedom, because you have no civilization if you're just shooting to the bottom of the barrel. So it was done in the name of freedom as well, and it did keep us free.
There you go. And look, where I go with it immediately is like, well, let's protect the freedom and the innocence of children rather than just Hugh Hefner's freedom or Diddy's freedom or whoever runs Pornhub's freedom. I want to protect the freedom and innocence of children. And it's so obvious the consequence of this pornographic, degenerate freedom that we've allowed.
But how do you...
It's compromised the innocence and the freedom of young people. We've mainstreamed a nihilistic mindset and a perverted, degenerate mindset that is harming the freedom and innocence of children. And
that is something I could get behind, and saying, there's rules for children and what you expose children to. I'm completely with that. However, how are you going to do that when you've got drag shows in kindergartens?
And again, it's the old slippery slope. We got there because we moved away from obscenity laws, and we said we can't infringe on anyone's freedom to be as degenerate, as perverted as they want to be. That's un-American. We're going to have to penalize. Again, I don't understand. If you're in the rap music industry and putting out this type of music, you should be taxed at a different rate. There should be different laws and rules. You go into, for me, in the sports world, you go into any basketball arena anywhere, and I'm talking about high school level,
right,
Pee-wee level, they pump in this hip-hop music with all this profanity as your children are playing basketball. We got to put a stop to it. It is the slippery slope. Music and this form of art has so much influence over your heart and mind and over the culture.
Jason,
we got to look at it and say enough is enough.
I got to cut you off. Thank you. Don't know if we agree on the solutions, but we both agree on the problem.